Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Let's Talk Movies. Hope you all had a happy new year. Today we are settling a 7 or 8 year long debate, and we are talking Godzilla vs. Kong, slated for May 21st of this year. We can actually say this year now.
Yeah, we can.
Really good. 2020
This has been a long time coming.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So this is the 12th King Kong film, and this is the 36th Godzilla film, which blows my friggin' mind. Like, I didn't think there were that many Godzilla films.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm on this side. We'll settle a debate as to like who wins, but you can guys almost for certain whose side I'm on by my childhood toys right here, like full on. And also, I have a old VHS of Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Been a huge fan of Godzilla ever since I was a child. I didn't like Power Rangers. I didn't like all that other stuff. It was all straight Godzilla. So I'm Team Godzilla, and that guy over there is Kong. So we're gonna settle this debate.
I have my
tonight.
one Kong poster in the background.
Yeah, see who's the bigger fan.
Well, you're. I don't know. I've always loved Kong ever since I was little. It's been one of my favorite, like fantasy monster tales. I kind of like that he's got kind of an emotional side to him, where I think G's kind of just you get what you get. He doesn't really give a crap about anybody.
Well, I'm sure if anyone sees or reviews this, they'll know. Anyone that's a Godzilla fan, they know that that Godzilla has some emotional side. All throughout the movies, they've shown it. And I've been a huge fan of him ever since 1954. And the only thing I don't disqualify the Americanized Godzilla, but I was a fan of it too, but I wasn't too big of a fan of it.
Are you talking about the 99 one with Matthew Broderick and?
Yeah, the 99 one. That was fine.
I know most like true Godzilla fans would probably want to like punch me in the face for saying this, but I enjoyed that movie. Like that's one of the few movies that I've like come back to like from 99. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a fun take on Godzilla. It was cool. It was cool.
It did not hit the mark on anything Godzilla, but it was still fun.
It was a fun monster movie, if anything else. If anything else, it was a fun monster movie.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
But so yeah, we're gonna get this debate settled on May 21st, barring any COVID bull doesn't happen before then. I feel like they've been working on this movie for like 25 years.
They've been working on this ever since King of the Monsters came out. I think ever since they were like doing the press release for that, like they were already like jetlining on the whole Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, and that's part of I don't understand how it's January 1st, the movie comes out in May 21st. I don't see how their marketing campaign hasn't started yet. I mean, we've got dick for this. I mean, we've gotten a couple of posters. We've gotten that little like 2-second long like leaked clip of Kong about to like slug him across the face, which we're going to show that picture in just a second. But I mean, there's been nothing other than
nothing at all.
There's been a couple of interviews with Adam Wingard, who's directing the project. But I mean, there's been no real information. Like they better be dropping a trailer soon.
Yeah, exactly. King of the Monsters got like a good amount of press. The first initial trailer of King of the Monsters is by far like one of my favorite out of like all the other Godzilla trailers because it was just beautiful. I don't know, the score behind it and all that, it was just awesome. It got me hyped for the whole movie. And honestly, it did decently well at the movie theaters. Granted, there's Godzilla started coming out when the MCU was coming out, so obviously there was a big like wave of MCU fans. So like
that was like around like the Infinity War Endgame buildup, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. They didn't do well timing, but it was still a good movie.
What did King of the Monsters do in the box office? Do you know?
it did well worldwide, like for sure. Like Godzilla is
I'm
a
sure
worldwide
it did
phenomenon.
well in Asia. I
But
mean,
in the box in the U.S. box office, I think it did fair enough to at least
yeah,
obviously have another movie.
right. Well, I mean, you and I went and saw it. I've liked it. I mean, I thought it set up. I mean, it set up Godzilla versus Kong.
It
So
literally had like what was it? Uh, it was like a small snippet though. It was like at the end
yeah,
credits. They were
yeah,
like
it was
talking
just
like
like laying like weird Easter eggs of
yeah,
like
it was like
something happening on Skull Island, and then it cut to
hmm
black, and that was it.
pretty much.
So,
Which
um,
I would still love to talk about like the end of Godzilla King of the Monster because I'm interested to see how the end credits scene plays into this new movie. So we can talk about that too.
right. Well, I remember during the end credits, the newspaper headlines and stuff talking about something happening on Skull Island. So I mean,
hmm
what is that going to be? Is there some kind of new monster that's popping up that the two of them are going to run into, which pits
hmm
them against each other? I mean, I don't know. The working title of this movie was Apex, which is dope. That's a kind of
That's
a cool
true.
working
Yeah,
title.
that's
It's like
yeah.
the two apex predators like
hmm
getting ready to go head to head. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing right now for me is just that there's no marketing. Like there is nothing. We have gotten zilch.
No.
So
So I
um,
mean, I'm a little scared how they're gonna do well in the box office, but I mean, it's still gonna be a good movie.
well, I don't think they're gonna have to worry about box office. I think the two names alone are gonna bring a ton of people to go see it. The biggest thing they need to worry about right now is COVID and people being afraid to go to the movie theater.
Yeah, pretty
You know what
much.
I mean?
Actually, oh well, I mean, we were gonna talk about I think they're actually going to stream it.
Oh
Kind of
my,
how like
yeah, I
yeah,
forgot HBO
yeah,
Max. It's
yeah.
going to be on HBO Max too.
Is that confirmed?
I believe so.
Because I remember there was like a what's it called?
I think all of
A bidding war between Netflix and HBO Max. I think
yeah.
Netflix wanted to offer like 200 something money, and then HBO was like, "Nah, fam,
Well,
250."
I almost it almost makes me wonder if we haven't gotten a trailer because HBO and Legendary and Universal are still trying to hash out how much money
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
who each one is getting paid to stream it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That almost kind of I don't know. Maybe that makes me think that's the reason we haven't gotten a trailer yet.
Yeah, I
But
think once they get it all finalized, that's when they'll drop the trailer.
yeah, I hope we get on the I say we like we have anything to do with when the trailer drops.
Yeah, none. We have
But
no say.
I mean I hope they get on that soon. I want to see a trailer. I don't want to see them give away a whole lot. Like I don't in terms of plot. I mean like tease them like getting ready to tear each other's heads off. Like that's what I
Yeah,
want. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
pretty much. Like when the whole I don't know what it was when King of the Monsters came out, they were doing like press release for all that, and then like I was so mad when they spoiled the
They
what
did
I think they
spoil a
call
lot
it
in that trailer.
they called it a Meltdown Godzilla, which is also
Yeah.
like it's like a alluded to like Burning Godzilla in 1995.
Yeah.
But I really wish they kept that like a secret because that would have been absolutely dope to see.
Yeah.
But
It definitely would
I
have.
have a hot topic on that too. Here,
I remember watching the trailer with you, and you were like, "That's it's gonna happen. Like it's gonna happen in this movie."
yeah,
um,
I was hella excited for it. But still, I was like, come on, Nick, at least give me a surprise.
yeah. All right, so we're gonna give a brief history on each one since he's the G expert and I'm the Kong expert. I say expert. I'm not really an expert, but um, I've been a fan for a long time. We've both been huge fans of these two characters. So starting with Kong, really Kong, the first King Kong film released in March of 1933. It was a stop motion film. I'm sure many of you have seen it, and it was a pretty big hit. I mean, it was the first time I think that you really got a big movie monster like that. Um, and of course, it followed the traditional Kong storyline of he kidnaps Anne on Skull Island, um, and it's Carl Denham, and his whole crew trying to find her off in the wilderness, and her and Kong become buddy and whatever. And then that had a sequel. It's funny because King Kong came out in March of 1933. Son of Kong, which was the sequel, came out in December of 1933.
That soon?
that soon. It was a big hit and people loved it. So they were like, well, shoot, we got to make a sequel. That had to have been the most rushed production ever. I mean,
I haven't seen Son of Kong, but
yeah, I've seen it. It's been a really, really long time since I've seen it. So then that storyline pretty much ended, which is when we got King Kong versus Godzilla from 1962, which, as you all know, Kong beat Godzilla in that movie.
it was debated.
It
It's debatable.
he beat him. I'm
They
sorry, but
fall. Look,
we have
no,
to
we can.
agree he beat him in the original film.
They fall in the ocean. Like they rode. I think if I remember correctly, they like fought, rolled down a hill, fell off a cliff into an ocean, and then I mean, King Kong obviously gets up because he needs air. Kong probably just swam. I mean, Godzilla probably just swam away. He was like, "I got this, man. I don't need to show off."
I'm gonna get this man in 70 years.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have
I'm
a
gonna end this
rematch.
man's whole career.
Yeah.
But well, no, he's gonna hit him with that twisted T.
Oh my God, no. Oh yeah, you saw that.
Did you see that stupid video?
I saw that, and I swear I've seen so many memes about it. There was one where it was like it was a guy that held the this twisted T, and it was like X gonna give it to you, and it had the guy holding the T was X, and then the T was it, and then the other one, the was the guy. It was just hilarious. I love those
That's
memes.
funny. So yeah, I remember reading that. Obviously, we weren't alive when King Kong versus Godzilla came out.
Yeah.
But I remember reading that critically, a lot of people were kind of pissed because it was like, this is going to be the big fight between the two monsters. And then a lot of it happened off screen. It kind of didn't really lead to anything. They also changed Kong's mythology a little bit.
I believe they had to, because I think it was I think during that time Godzilla was kind of going through another reboot, which Godzilla's gone through like a number of reboots.
800
But
reboots.
yeah. And I think when this reboot happened, they wanted the fight to happen, but they knew like realistically it wouldn't work out because Kong wasn't that big in regards to compared to the size of Godzilla. So they had to reboot
Yeah.
him. They had to reboot him as well. I think
Right.
that's where they introduced another like another number of movies about Kong.
Yeah. I don't believe that trying to think. I don't believe that this really had a sequel of the same Kong and the same Godzilla.
What
I
do you
think
mean?
this was kind of like the same version of them.
Mm-hmm.
King Kong Escapes, which was the next film from '67, that was the other Japan film. That might have been a direct sequel to it, where it was
Yeah,
the same iteration of Kong in a
pretty much.
sequel.
Yeah.
But then after those two, we had the 1976 remake, which I liked the 1976 remake. A lot of people didn't. It didn't really do all that great in the box office. They changed. He climbs on top of the World Trade Center instead of the Empire State Building, which a lot of people didn't like.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that they changed about the movie that people weren't really cool with. I think it's a good remake. I mean, for the time, for '76, I'm sure it was really dope. I mean, I would have been thrilled to see that in the movie theater. And then King Kong Lives, which was the 1986 sequel to the remake. I actually don't think I've seen this movie. Have you?
I have not seen.
I think
I wasn't much of a King Kong fan. I haven't watched much of it. I know like some of the mythology of it from Toho's
yeah,
iteration of King Kong. But
right.
other than that, I'm lost.
Yeah, I think this is one I haven't seen. And then, of course, the rights got switched over to Universal, which brings us Peter Jackson's King Kong from 2005.
Mm-hmm. That's the only one
Which,
I've actually seen.
yeah, I must say that iteration of King Kong from 2005, that is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
It was a solid movie. Like I'm not
I
gonna lie.
love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
With all my, I mean, I've probably seen that movie 30 times. I mean, like, I
It was a long
remember
movie too for its
it was
time.
long. It was 3 hours. It also, I don't know if you knew this, but it had a budget. I want to say it was around 150 or 160 million dollars, and it went over budget. was like $207 million by the time it was said and done. It
Hmm.
was the then most expensive film of all time.
Well, there was a lot of CGI in that.
There was a lot of
A lot of
CGI, and
CGI.
like they filmed in, I believe, New Zealand. So it was, I mean, it was a lot of like overseas stuff. I
Hmm.
mean, you had the ship, there was a lot of CGI. Um, but it was just, I think it was amazing. I mean, it was really well done. I think Peter Jackson, I remember reading that Peter Jackson loved the original King Kong, like the original stop motion Kong
Hmm.
film so much. That's what inspired him to become a filmmaker. So it was always like, this was kind of his dream film, I think. I think this was his big project of his lifetime. And I know he did the Lord of the Rings too, right?
Yeah,
He did the Lord of the Rings. I think, did he do the Hobbit movies?
I
Or did
have no
somebody else?
clue.
I don't know. But I know he did the Lord of the Rings. I mean, he's a good director. I think he's awesome. But I by far think that King Kong from 2005 is his favorite, or my favorite iteration of Kong. Um, and then of course we had the MonsterVerse um, kind of come in with Kong Skull Island in 2017.
Hmm.
Um, and then now we have Godzilla versus Kong. So the other thing is I think it's really important. Um, we're getting ready to debate on which one of these guys is stronger, who's going to beat the other one. I think it's really important to understand what interpretation you're talking about, because there's been I mean, let's face it, there's been so many different designs and interpretations for both of them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
without a doubt.
And the mythology has changed so much. So I'm going to read Jordan Vaught Roberts, who directed Skull Island. There's kind of two interpretations, if I can freaking talk, for Kong. There's the original interpretation, kind of what they used for the original 33 film, plus in Skull Island, and then there's Peter Jackson's version. So Jordan Vaught Roberts' interpretation, he said, the thing that most interested me was how big do you need to make Kong so that when someone lands on this island and doesn't believe in the idea of a myth, the idea of wonder, when we live in a world of social and civil unrest and everything is crumbling around us and technology and facts are taking over, how big does that creature need to be so that when you stand on the ground and you look up at it, the only thing that can go through your mind is that's a god. We sort of went back to the 1933 version in the sense that he's a bipedal creature that walks in an upright position as opposed to the um, anthropomorphic and notably correct silverback gorilla that walks on all fours. This is something that is its own species. It has its own set of rules. So we can do whatever we want, and really wanted to pay homage to what came before and yet do something completely different. If anything, our Kong is meant to be a throwback to the 33 version. I don't think there's much similarity at all between ours and Peter Jackson's Kong. That version is a very much scaled up silverback gorilla, and ours is something that's slightly more exaggerated. So that kind of lays it out right there. Kong is
Hmm.
more of a monster in that movie. I mean, obviously, he's a monster in Peter Jackson's version, but
It
it
was
was
a
kind
more
of
of
a,
a realistic approach. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, it was
Like
kind of
they're
its
like
own thing.
discovering, yeah, like a species that like was discovered in this island that wasn't bothered by necessarily bothered by human evolution. So like they weren't too bothered by it. So they
Right.
were able to like evolve into these massive creatures.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's Peter Jackson's interpretation. Peter Jackson once said, we assumed that Kong is the last surviving member of his species. He had a mother and a father, and maybe even brothers and sisters, but they're all dead. He's the last of the huge gorillas that lived on Skull Island, and when he goes, there will be no more. He's a very lonely creature and absolutely solitary. It must be one of the loneliest existences you could ever possibly imagine. Each day, he has to battle for his own survival against very formidable dinosaurs on the island, and it's not easy for him. He's carrying the scars of many former encounters with the dinosaurs, and I'm imagining he's 100 to 120 years old by the time our story begins. He has never felt a single bit of empathy for another living creature in his life, and it's been a very brutal life that he's lived. That's my favorite interpretation of Kong.
And then he meets a girl and becomes a total simp.
Yes.
Pretty much. That's
No,
that's
but
the
I
long
mean,
story.
I honestly, kind of thinking about it, I think the Kong that we're dealing with for this next film and from the MonsterVerse
Hmm.
is kind of a cross between the two. I know what Jordan Vault Roberts said about, kind of throwback to the 33 version, and he's pure monster. But even in Skull Island with Brie Larson, I mean, he helped them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he has like what's it called?
Emotion.
Yeah, emotion. Yeah, like he knows what they are, and it's the same principle with like Godzilla too. Like he's aware that they are like that there are humans, and
Right.
Godzilla is aware that the humans worship him as a god. And I think King Kong had that same mentality too. So I
Yeah.
think that's why, because he always knew that, like he was above them. So
Well,
there's a small level of respect with them.
yeah. I mean,
That
G
makes
roamed
sense.
around the planet. Kong, I mean, he had Skull Island. He had the native people on Skull Island.
Hmm.
And I mean, kind of like the director of Skull Island said, he was their god. I mean, like Kong
Hmm.
is their version of God.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to see in Godzilla versus Kong, are we gonna see them in the same environment that we've seen them in the past? Or are we going to get a more brutal version of the two of them? You know what I mean? With no disregard for
Hmm.
people, for the world around them. I mean, it's just them trying to tear each other apart. So that's really what I have for Kong.
I could totally see that. The only thing is that every single, how can I put this? I don't think I've ever seen a monster movie that didn't have any type of human element. So obviously there's gonna be some human element to it.
Right.
So like obviously Godzilla and Kong are gonna encounter humans, and they're gonna have some sort of like communication with each other to a certain degree. But I think whenever it comes to Godzilla, like he's already like solidified himself. He's
Yeah.
already solidified himself as king of the monsters.
Right.
So whenever this movie comes out, like it'll be interesting to see what happens when they meet up with each other, because I don't think the movies have ever alluded to the fact that they fought each other. I don't think they've
No.
even met each other at any point.
Well, there was the do you remember the post credits scene for Godzilla? Or no. For Skull Island.
Yeah, but
The cave painting?
that was directed towards King of the Monsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but who did the cave painting then?
The people that were there.
Did they?
Yeah, they did it.
But
Like the
that's what I'm saying. Like the native people from Skull Island, you mean?
Yeah, the native people in Skull Island. They made
So
that
then
painting.
they would have to have known that both of them existed.
Okay, yeah, I could probably see that. The way you say it like that, it makes sense.
So I mean,
But
have they fought before?
I don't think they have, because you
Okay.
remember Kong was kind of like in solitude. Like they're
Yeah.
portraying the fact that he was in solitude. He only had to deal with the skull crawlers and all that other stuff,
Yeah. Well,
because
and
Skull Island is his own thing.
you have to remember he was young too.
Yeah, yeah,
Adam Wingard did clarify that. He was like, to all the people who were discrediting Kong and being like Godzilla's going to wipe the floor with him, like don't discredit Kong, cuz like the version you saw in Skull Island is not going to be the same version that we see in this next film.
yeah,
So
and
I'm kind of curious to see how they season Kong a little bit. Um,
yeah,
and
same.
I don't know. I want to see, some new battle scars, a hairier face. I mean, he's got to look a little older. You know what I mean?
I think they did. So like I think they like actually showed like a rendition of the Kong that's going to come out in this movie. He looks bulkier, bigger, and more older, so to speak. So because in the Kong Skull Island, I mean he looked like a monster, but he still looked like a
Right.
young
Yeah.
creature. So obviously Kong and Godzilla haven't fought, because Godzilla is way older
Yeah.
by
That's
far.
fair.
So he's been here a long time, longer than Kong. Obviously, he probably met Kong's family, but maybe Godzilla's the one that killed Kong's family, and
Oh
not the skull
shit!
crawlers. If you ever thought about
Holy
that,
shit! I didn't even think about that.
yeah, maybe
Oh.
maybe the skull crawlers didn't kill his family. It was Godzilla.
Well, and I mean, if you look at the synopsis talking about going back to the origins
Yeah,
of the Titans,
yep.
dang, I didn't
So
think
that could be
about that.
interesting. Yep.
Well, if that cave painting is really done by Kong's, what if the gorilla in that painting is Kong's parent, one of his parents?
I'm almost certain, because I mean that kind of makes sense in the timeline if you think
Yeah,
about it.
yep. Because Kong would have still been like little.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea.
Man, I had
That
never
literally
thought
just
about
came
that
out of my
until then.
head. It
Yeah.
came off the top of my head, so I'm proud of
Whoo!
myself.
All right,
But
what you got for history of G?
so yeah, obviously I want to talk a little bit more about Godzilla and his history. His first movie came out in 1954, if I'm not mistaken. It was
Mhm.
like it was they made the movie primarily centralized on the effect of the nuclear bomb that was dropped on Japan from the United States, and that created the nuclear blast created this m- monster that ended up terrorizing Japan, and the Japan government had to like stop him any way we can. But and that movie was just it was the same way as Kong was actually not really. It wasn't stop motion necessarily. There are some things that they did differently. I can't remember exactly, but it was a really refreshing take on the effects of World War II because there were plenty of like movies about World War II during that time, but this like went above and beyond. And what's interesting is that the there's two versions of the 1954. It's the original version with Godzilla, and then but in the other version, when it went to the United States, they the United States wanted someone in there that you know that was American. So they
Right.
introduced this actor. I forgot what his name was, and they I guess CGI'd him into the movie, and he was some like reporter reporting on the Godzilla thing, and it's absolutely hilarious when you watch it again because the reporter is CGI in there and he's doing acting, but
CGI
or like, yeah, he was like copied and pasted into it. Like I'm not kidding. Like they actually made it like
from
that.
what year?
1954.
They didn't CGI
It
didn't they
wasn't.
would they
I'm
had to
not
have like
saying.
spliced
Look,
it together.
yeah,
You know what
splicing.
I
That's
mean?
the word I'm thinking of. I just think of like CGI as like the cure all for
Yeah,
all
I
that other
gotcha.
bull. But they spliced this guy in there, and he's like reporting about Godzilla, like he's terrorizing the city, blah 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 blah. But there's like no communication between that actor and the other actors. Like he's just like saying things, and the other actors in the original movie are just like doing their thing. Like
That's
he's
funny.
not like talking to the other people. There's no communication. He's just like there, and it's hilarious. But it's still the United States obviously wanted to like put their own element in
Right.
it, so that created a huge sensation for Godzilla. It propelled him into this. That was just the start of like this huge franchise that lasted. I think now it's 60 years, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And there were three, I think. Let me count it off. It started out with 1954. There was two movies. Then they rebooted it into what's called, I believe it was the Showa period, which is through like the 60s and 70s. And then in the 80s, I think 89, they introduced another Godzilla. They rebooted him, and they want to go back to the traditional aspect of the 1954 because through the Showa period, Godzilla was kind of like hokey pokey, puppet kind
Yeah.
of like. I don't know if you saw all those movies like Terror of Mechagodzilla. What was the other one? Godzilla's All Monsters Had Attack. It
Yeah,
was like
I've
the
seen a
older
few of them.
version. Like all of those, Godzilla versus Megalodon, like all of them are like they're great movies, but they are cheesy as hell.
Isn't that like the bodysuit, like the guy in
It
like the
was
rubber
well,
suit who's like hulking
all of them,
around?
all of them were bodysuits,
Yeah.
and it was just hilarious to see it because they were very puppet like. But as a kid when I watched that, it was just great to see giant monsters fight each other, and you
Right.
could tell they act like humans because they were in a bodysuit.
Yeah.
So so during that show up period, they ended that and they went to this newer route. It was still a bodysuit, and it was in 1989 when they showed. I think it was the Return of Godzilla is when they decided to revamp it and like pay homage to the original 1954. So there was no monsters that he had to defeat. It was just Godzilla terrorizing the town.
Mhm.
And then it moved on to what's called I can't say it correctly. I think it's the Heisei period, which introduced Space Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla 2, Destroyer, Biolate, and who else? And Godzilla Jr. With that,
See?
just love him to death, but it was that he's not my favorite. But after the Heisei period, and they killed him off in 1995 with the Burning Godzilla, which by far Godzilla vs. Destroyer is one of my favorite movies in the Godzilla franchise.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie. It shows so much emotion for Godzilla. He has emotion. Watch that movie. That man shows so much emotion. I cried my eyes out in that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I
I've
did.
never seen that one.
I One of these days we gotta watch it because it's a phenomenal movie
Well, maybe we'll
in
do a
my opinion.
commentary on. We
Oh
gotta
yeah,
do some commentaries on some of these old on
yeah,
these
we'll
old
definitely do that.
Godzilla films.
hmm But then after they killed him off, it went to the. Oh, okay, let's talk about this one. It went to the United States whenever they decided to do their take on it, which
Right.
they did their take on it, but not many of us weren't a fan of it. So after that, they introduced the Millennium period, which showed Godzilla 2000, Godzilla versus Megaguirus. And then after that, it revamped Godzilla again with a newer rendition where they had an entirely different mythology of Godzilla. I think it was Godzilla All Monsters Out Attack. It was that version. I think it was
Mm.
like 2002. And that mythology of him is really interesting. It's a different take on it. He's supposedly a ghost of all of the soldiers from the war. It was an interesting take on it.
Oh,
Yeah, it was interesting.
that's deep.
Yeah, it was really cool, and
Damn.
but it had him show as a villain. So like throughout this entire franchise, they went back and forth whether he is a villain, a savior,
Right.
anti-hero, all that. Like they threw everything plus the kitchen sink as
Yeah.
what they could think of with Godzilla. So after that movie, it went to 2003 when they introduced the my favorite Mecha Godzilla, Kiryu, which is actually a Mecha Godzilla built from the 1954
Mm.
from the bones of 1954 Godzilla, and they used it to fight the Godzilla that they were being terrorized now. So that right there is one of my favorites too, because it pays homage to the original 1954, which was a terrorizer, which they built to become a savior. So that was interesting, and that
Right.
storyline is interesting as well because it showed that that Mecha Godzilla Kiryu was still like it had like a battle between whether he was still like this monster that terrorized the city or he was doing what he was built to do, which was to defeat the other Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then after that, it supposedly was going to end with this last movie, Godzilla Final Wars, which again through everything plus the kitchen sink, it paid homage to almost everything that's happened in the last 50 years since that movie came out. It showed everyone from the Showa period. It didn't show anyone from the Heisei period or the Millennium, but it paid homage to the whole period of the that's happened. And also in that movie, Godzilla Final Wars, he smacks the floor with that Zilla from 1999. If you guys want to check that video out, it's absolutely hilarious. If you're a
Really?
Godzilla fan, it's that fight literally lasted 4 seconds at least.
They knew what they were doing.
They knew exactly what they were doing. They were saying, "Yep,
Dude,
let's just kill this guy off."
I still think that 99 Godzilla movie is fun.
It's fun, but in regards to like the actual traditional Godzilla, doesn't even
Yeah.
compare. So after Godzilla Final Wars, they ended it. It was great. I thought that was a beautiful way to end it. Some people didn't like it, but I thought it was a beautiful way to end it. And then came out Godzilla 2014 or 15, I don't remember, when Legendary got the rights. And honestly, when I saw that poster that they were introducing this new Godzilla, like I have it right there, obviously, I was extremely worried because I was like, okay, here comes the states again doing another rendition. They're gonna mess it up, and then
Here
Toho is
comes
gonna
the
have to.
states again.
Yeah, here comes the states again, messing it up. But it worked. Everyone loved it, and I ended up loving it too. I love the rendition that they made with this Godzilla, and the actors as well was phenomenal. I love them. I'm glad that they brought Dr. Serizawa.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert: if you guys haven't seen any of these, um, he he dies in the second movie, Godzilla King of Monsters, And now it's going to be interesting to see how the story progresses because Dr. Serizawa was a pivotal character in the entire franchise.
Right.
Everyone in the in that franchise knew who Dr. Serizawa was, because he was the one that killed the original 1954 Godzilla
Yeah.
with the Auction Destroyer, which Godzilla King of the Monsters, the newest one, alluded to that. I'm a little upset how they brought that one in. I'm a little upset because that was actually supposed to be the weapon to kill him, and they just create into like a freaking missile that's supposed to kill everyone. But we could talk about that too because I'm interested to see what that's going to cause.
Yeah.
Because this whole monsterverse that they're creating, when Legendary announced that they're doing this monsterverse thing, my heart got so big. I was like, yes, please bring all of them back, revamp it. I would love to see a newer version of these creatures.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much the storyline of all of Godzilla. I didn't mention though that in 1962, that the topic that we're talking about, King Kong versus Godzilla, happened, and that was a hot take on everybody, as
Yeah.
anyone would imagine, as it is right now. People were saying, "Oh, who's going to win?" Because it was basically the states against Japan again.
Isn't it kind of weird how like these are like low key a little bit political?
Oh, without a
Like
doubt.
both of them are kind like it's like a like subtext behind everything. It's like kind of political, but it's not. And it's just I don't know. I just think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious too. And what's funny is that like I'm technically not from either of those places. I'm literally Salvadoran. I have no like bias in it, but I'm obviously
Yeah.
biased against Godzilla because I grew up with him.
Right. Well,
So yeah.
and you know that's one of the bigger questions I had. You going back to the universe thing, is we've sprouted this new monster verse out of Godzilla and Kong, but where do you go? I mean, like we live in the world of Marvel, where everything has to be a shared universe. We have the MonsterVerse, we have the MCU, the
Hmm.
DCEU, and I mean, if you look at the '60s and '70s and before, I mean, there were sequels, obviously. I mean, look at all the Godzilla sequels we had and
Hmm.
reboots and all of that stuff. But it was still more like linear storytelling. The '80s and '90s, there were a whole lot of sequels. That's when some of those later Kong sequels happened. Um, Especially if you look at like horror films in the '80s. I mean, like, God, look at how many like Friday the 13th movies and stuff they made. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
like sequel city. And now we're kind of in this weird universe where like everything has to be a shared thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's like there are no more linear storylines within this. So, like, after Godzilla versus Kong, I mean, I'm sure we're going to have to wait and see how this ends and who really wins, how this movie plays out to see where we're going to go moving forward. But I mean, do you think the MonsterVerse has as much potential as the MCU does or as the DCEU does?
I think it does because I mean, obviously it's not going to be to the level of the MCU because the
Right.
MCU like built this entire empire from this universe, and
Yeah.
I give mad props to them. But I mean, obviously, what we've already talked about, like they have a lot of material to pull from,
Right.
like from Kong and Godzilla. They have a plethora of storylines to go from. Though my
Mm.
only concern right now is that Godzilla was a Godzilla and Kong are a core factor, so obviously it's gonna have to be linear based on them. So
Right.
like the MonsterVerse cannot like progress well unless Godzilla or Kong is still in the mix
Yeah. They
because
have to be
those
the
are like their
center of it.
cash money. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
because I have seen a couple of spin-offs from the Godzilla franchise. Like there was
mhm.
Mothra. They had a series about her. They had one about King Kong, obviously, and then they had one with Jet Jaguar, which is, do you
Mm.
even know who that is?
No, I've never heard
Yeah,
that name
don't worry.
before.
He's like
Don't worry
that's
about it.
yeah, that's out of the ballpark. But he's a good character. But they had a storyline about him as well, and who else? I think that was it, and that was during the Showa period and the Heisei period as well. But
Right.
that was pretty much it. I didn't see anything else. So I mean, obviously they have to follow the storyline of like Godzilla and Kong
Right.
because those are the two that are like core monsters in this universe.
Yeah.
And like obviously Legendary is taking upon themselves to create these new monsters, which I love as
Mhm.
well. The Mutus, they were
Yeah,
dope.
Mucho or whatever it's called.
Yeah, and I think that was the only one that they recently made.
Yeah,
No, so when King of the Monsters came out, they created all these other monsters. And like, I don't know if you guys follow the Godzilla movies and all that stuff, but they created a website with Monarch. Well, they made a website about Monarch and all the monsters that they're keeping track of. So there's a live feed of like where all the monsters are at and
yeah,
where all the monsters could be.
a catalog.
Yeah, catalog. And it was like you get a map of the world and it shows every location where Monarch is, and
Hmm.
every location Monarch is stationed, that's where a monster is. So
Yeah,
if you've seen like Godzilla King of the Monsters, they obviously talk about that because Monarch is the one that keeps track of these monsters.
yeah,
So like in regards to this monsterverse, obviously it's going to be centered around Godzilla and Kong, but it's also going to be centered around Monarch, which I think they could do a spinoff with Monarch. You know, them finding all these other monsters. So
right.
that'd be interesting as well. But yeah, I think they have enough material to go from.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be as popular or as successful as Marvel, the MCU, but
No.
it'll be one of the top uh movie universes that has been created in the recent history. Because you remember, did you know they did like they were gonna do what's it called, horror monster universe? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, all the Universal monsters.
Yeah, like they were gonna do something about the Mummy and Dracula
Yeah,
Untold. They
Mummy,
just
Dracula,
they scrapped
Creature
all
from the
that.
Black Lagoon. Yeah,
Yeah, they
which I
scrapped
think
all of
is
that.
dope. As a horror guy, I would love to see like a 21st century take on Dracula and on the Wolfman and the
They
Creature from the
did.
Black Lagoon. I mean, that would be awesome.
They did one with Dracula Untold. I mean, that was the start, and it was a
Yeah,
solid movie. I love that movie. I love the way they alluded to a whole nother universe.
yeah,
But then I don't know why the Mummy didn't do well. I think we all agree. The one that Tom Cruise
yeah,
did,
yeah.
it wasn't. It didn't
Nope.
pop off well. So I think that's why they killed it off, which is unfortunate because Dracula Untold was a great movie to
I
start
didn't
the
see that.
universe.
I'll have to check that
I'd
out.
recommend it. Yeah,
Well, and I mean,
but
if they do that, I don't want to see like I don't want it to be a CGI fest. Like, I throw some practical effects in there. You know what I mean?
yeah, because horror movies are primarily practical effects, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Like that was at
Oh,
their big thing in the 80s.
right.
But
So,
yeah, moving forward with Godzilla versus Kong. What do we know more about the movie so far? Like there isn't much again,
right. I
and
mean, there's not a whole lot to go off of. There are two synopsises, right? Synopsis. I don't even know. There,
yeah,
there's two different synopses on online right now. There's the official synopsis from Legendary and Warner Brothers that says, "In a time when monsters walk the earth, humanity's fight for its future sets Godzilla and Kong on a collision course that will see the two most powerful forces of nature on the planet collide in a spectacular battle for the ages, as Monarch embarks on a perilous mission into the uncharted terrain and unearths clues to the Titan's origin. A human conspiracy threatens to wipe the creatures, both good and bad, from the face of the earth forever." So that kind of goes back. I mean, Monarch is going to be playing dirty in this. I don't think Monarch is going to play either side.
I don't think Monarch is playing either sides because they're more of an observing kind of uh, front. Because when Godzilla King of the Monsters came out, they were just there to observe.
Yeah.
It was the other people. I forgot who it was. Tywin Lannister, that guy. I love
Yeah.
him to
Yeah.
death. He
Yeah.
was phenomenal in that movie. Like I think that they're gonna come back and want to jack things up because he didn't die. He didn't get caught. In the after credit scenes of Godzilla King of the Monsters,
Yeah. Yeah.
they find the head of one of the heads of Ghidorah, and they're like, this could work. So my question is, are they going to introduce mechas coming up? Like, I
Dude,
would love to see that.
here I'm going to make a prediction right now. I I hope in Godzilla versus Kong I think it would be all. They've gone to great depths to not call him King Kong, even though everybody knows him. The character's name is technically King Kong,
Hmm.
but they've specifically only called him Kong. Even in that scene with that little like cameo he had in King of the Monsters, where the monarch people are sitting all like not in Congress, in their meeting where they have
Yeah,
them on the video, and the
yeah,
guy says, "What is that?" And he says, "That's Kong." So hopefully this is the movie that dubs him King Kong, but also I think it would be awesome if they introduced Mecha Ghidorah and they made Godzilla and Kong fight him together. I think that would be dope because that would set up like a mutual respect thing. Like they're not
yeah.
trying to kill each other anymore. They're both like, you know what, you're all right. Like, and they're
Hmm.
just gonna go their separate ways. And then you can tell different stories. You can tell stories about what Godzilla's doing. You can tell stories about what Kong is doing on Skull Island, and you
Hmm.
can branch it out and keep it going that way.
I
I think if you have Kong beat the hell out of Godzilla or vice versa, and one of them kills the other, what do you do? I mean, like, where do you go from that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, that just kills off the universe. Like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah,
And you mentioned having that Mecha King Ghidorah, which was introduced, I think, 1991 or two, where Godzilla faces King Ghidorah, and then King Ghidorah is defeated. But then, like
right.
these future people, like bring him back to life, and they
Yeah,
create Mecha King Ghidorah.
yeah,
Again, those storylines are way out of whack. They're
yeah.
hilarious, and I love them, but they're pretty wacky. But
Right.
I don't think they're going to introduce Mecha King Ghidorah because they've already produced toys for Mecha Godzilla.
Oh yeah, there was a toy
Yeah,
leak.
there
I
was a
don't
toy leak.
know. I don't know because I feel like with that post-credit scene from King of the Monsters, I mean, you have to think we've gone what 2 years now. It'll be
Hmm.
2.5 years by the time Godzilla versus Kong comes out from when King of the Monsters came out.
Hmm.
And that post-credit scene, I mean, you got to think it's going to be another at least year and a half before the next MonsterVerse movie comes out.
Yeah,
So I mean, that's a long 3.5 year length between that post-credit scene and when we're actually going to see that come to life. So I mean, I don't know. They'll probably tease it more. If
yeah,
it doesn't happen in this movie, they'll probably tease it more.
yes,
What I don't want to happen is for Kong to kill Godzilla and then we have Mecha Godzilla and that's it.
yeah.
I'd be
That would be
done.
weird.
I'd be like, you know what, I'm done.
I
So
think what's gonna happen is like obviously there's like other monsters. There's like some bat monster that's gonna come in, and I think that would just be like a little one-off creature that Kong ends up fighting, or maybe
yeah,
Godzilla ends up fighting. But I like the idea that they may bring in a mecha
hmm
because, like you said, there's like some secret society that's gonna like try to mess
right,
everything up. So I think they are gonna create this mecha Godzilla that wants to kill all of these monsters.
yeah,
So I think that's who they're gonna end up fighting is this mecha Godzilla or their iteration of mecha Godzilla, which I'm excited to see. Every
yeah,
single iteration of mecha Godzilla was phenomenal, and I would love to see that storyline play out. And I think can happen is if Godzilla and Kong end up defeating um, Mecha King, if they end up defeating the Mecha Godzilla, the Secret Society will end up, saying, okay, well that one didn't work, so let's try this. We have this head of Ghidorah. Let's
yeah,
try this.
yeah, yeah,
So I think that's probably what will happen. I
yeah.
like that storyline a lot better.
Right. And that also raises the question, what are the other monsters going to play? Like what's their role going to be in this movie? Because I mean, I have no doubt we're going to see more monsters than just Godzilla and Kong.
Yep.
I mean, like at that final scene when Godzilla roars and he's like crown king and all of the other ones like surround him. I mean, like the because humans they've made the monster vorse. I can't even talk. We've reached a point in the monsterverse where like humans have to live like in harmony with these things. Like they have to figure out how to like coexist.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to play a part in it. Is like, are the other creatures loyal to Godzilla because he's king?
That's
You
how
know
it
what I mean?
works.
I
That's how it worked in the Godzilla King of all the monsters because when Godzilla was defeated by Ghidorah, Ghidorah was crowned and
right.
everyone bowed down to him
Yeah.
and they listened to him. But whenever Ghidorah was defeated, they were like, "All right, fine, we'll take you
Yeah.
too. We'll we'll bow down to you as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see if that happens again, because maybe Godzilla does lose in his first battle with King Kong.
Right.
So and
Well,
then all the monsters start praising him.
yeah. And it's funny because like we joked about this like when the movie ended, but like, even when Ghidorah called all of the other monsters, and at the end when Godzilla like roared and he called all the other monsters,
Yeah.
everybody like was like, Kong didn't come.
No.
Like that man Kong is like, dude, I'm napping. Like, leave me alone. I'm
Kong
my own
literally
man.
Kong literally went like this. He was like, nah, and just went back to sleep. Like he could care less, because he feels himself as like his own king. Like he has his own kingdom, Skull
Right.
Island. That's his place.
Yeah.
So like King Kong is obviously like his own
Yeah.
king, and it'll be interesting to see where Godzilla plays in that, because maybe
Right.
Godzilla comes to his turf and he's like, "No, like fam, this is my turf. Like you either step off or get knocked off."
Yeah. It's funny because we're reading so far into this, and this entire fight between the two of them, Kong is probably just like, wake me up again. See what happens. Wake me up again. Like, that's what it's
Yeah,
just, he woke him up from his nap. That's what all of this is
pretty
about.
much. Yeah,
But
he was
I mean,
probably
for
like
real,
smacking.
he ignored that. Like, he
Hmm.
ignored when Ghidorah called, and he ignored when G called. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's strong. He's strong-willed. I mean, like I get the vibe that Kong is gonna know what he's doing. Like,
Yes.
and it also makes you think. Godzilla's been all around the world. All these monsters are all around the world. Has Kong really seen anything off of Skull Island?
I'm not sure. I think this is where he's introduced into the MonsterVerse.
Right, because I mean, we saw him on Skull Island, and we get that's his turf, that's his territory. But has he seen the rest of the world? Does he even know what else is out there?
I don't think so. And I don't think Legendary is going to try to do this storyline where he comes to the States and, kidnaps,
Yeah,
Anne. I don't that doesn't
yeah,
work.
I don't. I think they're gonna skip over that because, I mean, it goes back to like the iteration thing or interpretation thing. Like, which iteration of Kong are you talking about? Are you talking
Yeah.
about the Peter Jackson style where he has emotion and he's lonely and he wants like companionship but he's angry, or are you gonna go with this like classic version where he's a monster? Like that's all he is. He doesn't really feel. He feels emotion, but it's more of like a brute emotion. It's not
Hmm.
a tender, loving, I want to be your friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it just goes back to interpretation.
So, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I don't think they're going to try, like I said, I don't think they're going to try this iteration where he finds a human
Yeah.
to love. I think he's just going to stay as this brute king that's like his own turf, and someone steps on his turf, or I think because you saw the still, right? That they showed
Yeah.
on like
Yeah.
the leaked trailer.
Mhm.
Obviously, he gets kidnapped by either Monarch or that
Yeah.
secret society, and Godzilla is like, "Well, he's out of his turf.
Yeah.
Let me show him who the king is." So I think that's how the storyline is going to play out.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks like Kong may have the upper hand that day,
Yeah.
because obviously he's pissed because he just got kidnapped.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like even in those 4 leaked pictures from like a couple weeks ago, they
Hmm.
both look pissed. I mean,
Yeah.
like they're both like ready to go.
Hmm.
Um,
So that kind of makes me think like I like the theory that came out of the top of my head that they had
yeah.
some like actual like history with one another,
Mhm.
kind of like Ghidorah and Godzilla, because I think Ghidorah was the one that killed off Godzilla's lineage, because he is the last of his
Yeah.
kind too.
Hmm.
So maybe Godzilla is the one that killed off Kong's lineage.
Yeah.
So that storyline, that theory kind of mixes well with one
Yeah.
another.
Well, and that kind of makes it interesting too, because like if one of them dies, that's it. Like
There's no one else.
there's no more of the big gorillas. There's no more of the of whatever Godzilla is. I
He's a
mean,
lizard.
he's a lizard, yeah, but he's not. Kong is a gorilla. Godzilla is like kind of a lizard, but not really.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So then we kind of got real off topic, but the novelization synopsis just got released too, which is humanity fights for its future as Godzilla and Kong embark on a path of destruction that will see the two most powerful forces of nature on the planet collide in all-out war.
The
So
novelization just sounds contradicting to the actual like movie synopsis
yeah,
because it doesn't mention anything about Monarch, it doesn't mention anything about no secret society or anything.
right.
So it'd be
It's a lot more vague.
yeah, a little bit more vague. So I mean, I'm not really listening to the novel synopsis. The
Yeah,
movie synopsis sounds just as fun to
right.
me. So that's
Yeah.
mainly what I'm concerned
And I mean,
with.
that's from Legendary and Warner Brothers, like themselves. Like that's their synopsis of
Hmm.
it. So um, I think it's going to kind of come down between like dominance and emotion, because obviously Godzilla's got the dominance. I mean, he's king of the monsters. We saw that. That's the whole point of that second film. Um, but again, Godzilla, Kong. If that's really true, what you said about the storylines, where maybe G murdered the rest of his lineage
Hmm.
when Kong was little. It's weird to think of Kong as like a baby, like baby
Yeah,
Kong, like
exactly.
what, like baby Kong is like the equivalent of like Peter Jackson's King Kong, like the
Exactly.
like 45-foot tall one.
Yep.
But like if there's some kind of emotional connection there, you know, Kong is going to show a little bit more frustration and anger. I think for G, it's more of like, I'm the king here. Like you have no authority right now.
Yeah.
Kong, it's like a vendetta. So I mean, like, I think that's kind of the thing that I hope they portray. And it's just like their personality almost. You know what I mean? I would say they both
Yeah.
have personalities, even G.
Yeah, because in Godzilla King of the Monsters, it clearly shows that he's aware of the humans because they
Right.
worship him as a god.
Yeah.
So he has intelligence within him. He's not just some brute monster that's just doing whatever he does, but
Right.
he knows his purpose and he knows his place in
Yeah.
this world.
Hmm.
So yeah, like you said, whenever they end up meeting, like it's literally gonna be Godzilla saying, I'm the king. I just took down this alien shit that just literally kicked my ass an hour ago. So like if you and you are not bowing down to me, so I need to show you who the actual king is. And Kong is just like, look, man, you woke me up from my nap, you killed my parents, and I just got kidnapped by these white folks, and I'm on a ship. I don't play this game. I'm gonna sock you in the jaw.
Kong is basically Batman.
What?
Kong is Batman, and G is the Joker. Like that's basically what we're setting up right now.
I don't know about that.
But
I would say I
yeah,
could
that's
see
not really right.
if you're comparing, then Kong should be Batman and Godzilla should be like Superman. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
that's true. That's true.
yeah, you know what I mean? Because like Godzilla is just this superpower that's just overpowered. Like he
Yeah,
can take anything, and
yeah,
Kong is like Batman, who's like analytical. He has a vendetta, and he's like, I could take you if I need to.
yeah.
So
Well, and that kind of brings us like to their traits, like the actual fight itself. What are you looking for in the fight? Like, what are you wanting to see when they really go toe to toe and it's like smack time? What do you want?
well, I mean, obviously it's gonna be a lot of carnage because I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
in the in the toys they mentioned Godzilla is like he gets damaged. He loses one of his fins from Godzilla from Kong, and Kong
Really?
creates this axe. So like yeah, like Batman creates what he's got and tries
Like
to
in the leak toys?
yeah, in the leaked toys it shows Kong with
Oh.
a basically Stormbreaker if you could think about it, but with Godzilla's one of Godzilla's spines. So like, yeah, they're gonna use that too. So like it's gonna be carnage, complete carnage.
Yeah.
Godzilla's obviously gonna damage Kong. I think in one of the toys it showed one of Kong's arm just absolutely like demolished. And
Really?
I think I would love to see them fight more than once. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
guarantee.
I
I
would
don't.
love to. In the leak footage, it shows uh, them like fighting on a ship, which I
Mhm.
find highly impossible to believe. There's no
I
way they could
know.
fight on it.
Yeah.
It's
The
like
weight of them would sink
yeah,
that ship
exactly.
in like 2 seconds.
Exactly. It's like you have this little raft and some big guy just gets on it. Obviously, it's gonna sink.
Yeah.
So I can't see that actually happening, but
Right.
I know they're gonna fight, in the middle of the water, which is Godzilla's turf,
Hmm.
and I would love to see them fight on land. I would like to see at least 3 fights with them
Yeah.
because Godzilla
Well,
and Ghidorah fought 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. One in
Right.
the Antarctica, one, and I think it was like in Mexico or something like that, and the other one in what was the other place? Where was the battle at?
um,
I think it was in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. It
it
had
was it
to.
was Boston, yeah, because they were at Fenway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
she was at Fenway at the end.
hmm
Um, I think obviously G's powers are superior. Kong doesn't really have any powers. I think Kong, what I'm looking for is like Kong has that brute strength. You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's just like that, like pure muscle and like emotion. Like,
yeah.
um,
Obviously, if you were to compare, Godzilla's arms to Kong, Kong is obviously like, swole AF.
yeah,
So obviously Kong's gonna have the advantage in regards of like being agile and just having the strength and the agility to take Godzilla. But Godzilla is just absolute like brute force. He's like a train that
yeah,
just comes right at you. But he does have some agility as well from, as we could tell from the Mewtwo battles. I didn't
right,
expect I was expecting Godzilla to just be this big lumpy guy
yeah,
just absolutely tearing shit up, but he showed some agility as well. So
right,
like obviously they're gonna be at equal odds, obviously, but
mhm,
there's gonna be some like favors they have for one another. Obviously,
yeah,
Godzilla has his atomic breath, and Kong just has his agility and his.
mhm,
He's a lot smarter than Godzilla, obviously, I
yeah,
believe, because he literally creates Stormbreaker out of one of his
yeah.
dorsal fins.
Well,
So,
and I think part of the other thing that I was thinking about is like, you mentioned intelligence and like agility and the strength of both of them, but it sounds kind of dumb, but Kong's got grip on his hands and his feet. He's got opposable thumbs.
what is this?
That's one thing G doesn't have.
He has thumbs.
Godzilla?
Yeah, he has. I think it's 4 fingers.
Yeah, but
Opposable thumb, this and this.
can G throat slam you with his foot? Because I don't think Kong
Okay,
can.
yeah, that's fair. But Godzilla is obviously showing power. In the first movie,
Yeah,
he like absolutely just grabs a Mewtwo by the throat and just like absolutely
by
slams
the
him to the
throat.
ground. Yeah,
Yeah,
like obviously Godzilla does have like the power to throw down.
right. He does. What would be really dope, dude, is if we got like kind of a nod to the original Kong story.
Oh
If
yeah,
they
you're. I
fight
know
in
what you're talking
Godzilla,
about.
or if they fight in Godzilla, if they fight in New York, that would be dope.
Yeah.
Like to have Kong, like I don't know, he might be too big to climb the Empire State Building, but I mean, like even having him like swing off, like I
Oh,
completely
we're not
want to
talking
see
about the same
Kong.
thing. Oh, yeah.
I want to see Kong like swinging off of buildings. Like I want to see him do some gorilla shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
Like
I thought you were talking about this moment in the 1962 version. There's a there's a funny version in the 1962 where Kong gets like he literally grabs a tree,
the tree, yeah,
yeah, and just shoves it into Godzilla's mouth.
yeah.
It's hilarious. I would love to see that happening. I would love to see that. I
But
would die laughing.
that's what I'm saying though. Like Godzilla's got the powers, but I want to see Kong like use the environment. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like swing off of buildings. Like if he took like cars or like a train or something and like crammed it into his face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just I want to see like creative stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
because I think Kong has the intelligence to do that, and now he's got the size. That was something that kind of struck me. Like that leaked like 2 second footage we got where he's like getting ready to like sock him
Hmm.
on the boat or the helicarrier or whatever. Um, I Kong has gotten swole. I mean
Yes.
that man's grown
Yep.
from where we saw him in Skull Island.
Obviously, that's the case because they kept mentioning like he is still growing. Like this is
Yeah,
not full size. I think
yeah,
they wanted to mention that because they knew they were going to fight.
yeah.
So the Kong we're going to see is a lot bigger
Right.
and a lot more powerful and a lot more angry because he's obviously what we've talked about, the possible vendetta that they have with one another. So
Yeah,
like I'm all for this movie.
yeah. I'm pretty hyped.
Hmm.
Um, you got anything else?
Um, other than that, I think I'm just overall I'm interested to see how they finish off this movie and how they move forward. That's the only thing I'm
Yeah.
I'm wondering about is how do they move forward with this?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And again, I think that really we got to figure out how this film is going to end because I mean,
Hmm.
I think Adam Wingard said, the whole purpose of the MonsterVerse was to put them together. I mean, that's the reason that we've gotten the last three movies because they wanted Kong and Godzilla to fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is kind of like what it's been leading to.
Hmm.
So, I'm just curious if this is their like what we've been like moving towards with these two fighting. Where are we going to go after? Goes back to the shared universe thing. So I'm curious to see, where they're going to take the MonsterVerse from here.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like I said, they have plenty to go off of. There's
Right.
plenty of bigger monsters than King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah was just a big mainstream, but
Yeah.
there were other monsters that shown to be a lot more formidable than King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
So they have enough to go from. What I wanted to mention was the auction destroyer. I would love to see them
Oh
introduce
yeah.
Destroya. My only problem is that they already introduced the burning Godzilla with the meltdown Godzilla.
Yep.
So like they kind of like threw that story out the window. But I still think they could probably do it. It's just that storyline won't be the same as the 1995 version.
Right.
But like I said, they have plenty to go from, and I'm excited to see. I just wish they would still post stuff.
I
Again,
know,
we don't
man.
know anything.
I know.
All this was just theories and thrown out
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah. We got to see
So
a trailer. I mean, they.
yeah,
I
we
would
need a trailer.
expect. I would expect a trailer by the end of January, maybe early February. That's when if they figure out this whole HBO streaming deal and whatever, um, I would they probably have it ready. Like I'm sure that trailer is edited and ready to drop
Yeah.
whenever they get the go ahead to do it.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, we'll be back. We'll probably do a reaction to that trailer. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'm just excited to see anything. Give us a poster, give us a trailer, literally anything. Like
Yeah.
because even there hasn't even been any interviews or anything about it. Like
Nothing.
there's been nothing. Usually, you can't. I mean, like we were talking about Spider-Man last week. For God's sakes, I feel like I know the entire plot of Spider-Man 3. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
probably wrong. They're going to change it
Yeah.
10 times. But I mean, it's just like they got to release something. They got to get on that marketing campaign. So, but we want to hear what you guys have to think. Tweet at us at We Talk the Movies. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're on Anchor. We are on YouTube, obviously. Wherever you stream your podcast and your shows. New episodes drop Monday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Yep. Take care.